It's not about the destination. It's about the journey. While true, too often is that phrase overused and used to a point where it becomes an excuse for a bad or at least a subpar closure for a story. A good ending makes everything that you just experienced even more worth it. A good story, in my view, should have both a good journey and a good ending. But what makes an ending good? Is there any one type of good ending, or is it deeper than that? Well, let's talk about it and see if we can see why Xenoblade as a whole is so well regarded for its endings. Because Xenoblade as a whole has quite a few different types of endings. They range from epic and heartwarming to emotional and riveting to depressing but hopeful. It doesn't rely on any one formula to construct its endings. It tailor-makes each one to suit what that game is all about. Let's start off with Xenoblade 1. And what is Xenoblade 1 all about? Giant adventure, where people are being used as mere pawns in the schemes of gods. They're being used as cannon fodder, they're disposable. Shulk and crew eventually come to realize they want to fight for a future of their own making, where they can make their own choices, a world without gods. But to me, I always interpret this more as a world without fate, where the future is a blank canvas for each individual to paint upon with their own choices. And that idea, that critical, central piece of philosophical advice holds true for each individual Xenoblade game. And along the way, you experience heartbreak after heartbreak, struggle after struggle, as they aim for a seemingly impossible dream. Hell, that sentence right there is essentially a summation of Xenoblade 1, 2, or 3, and possibly all three of them. So why does Xenoblade 1's ending work? It works because it concludes the themes of the game, what everything had been building up to. After struggling quest after quest to achieve their goal, they finally managed to win. They finally got a win, and we witnessed the fruits of their labor. Hell, our labor, because we're the one controlling them. It's definitely a happy ending, but it's a good ending. An ending doesn't have to be happy or sad or somewhere in the middle to be a good ending. There's no one right emotion for a good ending. Because one, it's subjective. Two, it depends upon what the story is calling for. And the reason that Xenoblade 1's ending is so good, in my opinion, is not because it's a happy ending, but because it wraps up the theme and the message of the game beautifully, leaving us feeling satisfied for all that we have just experienced. It's a hopeful and optimistic message for sure, but it also wraps up each individual story beautifully. Dunban's story had kind of wrapped up earlier, but he is able to keep moving on and do some good even without the Monado. Melia, despite all the pain, vows to keep moving into the future and to create a better tomorrow, and to be the best person that she can be. Ryan and Shala seemingly end up together, wrapping up that love story, and Riki tags along as a close friend, and that comedic pairing of Ryan and Riki has absolutely no right to be that heartwarming at the very end. Melts my heart every time I see that scene, and every time they had tried to find happiness before, they had always found some kind of heartbreak. And despite all the pain Shala had experienced throughout the whole game, she is able to laugh alongside Ryan, Riki, and Juju as they crash into the water. Thus, their story comes to a close, and you are left with a positive message about how important it is to be able to move on from pain, and not let the past define you. Fiora meets up with Shulk as both of their stories come to a close as they finally manage to be together after all that had happened, and both are willing to move into the future with their heads held high, despite what danger or sadness it may bring, because they don't know what it can bring, but at least it's the future of their own design, thus bringing a close, to a close even, the story of Shulk, Fiora, and the entire game. This ending wraps up with a bow each individual plotline the game had woven throughout its entire journey. You walk away with a great sense of finality and closure about it all, and that feeling is why Xenoblade 1's ending is so satisfying to me. And as we transition over to Xenoblade 2, I've made multiple videos on why I believe it's a freaking masterpiece, but the reason that 2's ending is so dang perfect is because it follows the formula from Xenoblade 1. It's a different ending to be sure, with completely different emotions that it expects the player to be feeling at that point. So how the hell can it be following the same playbook? Wouldn't that be a bad thing? Well, no, if it's a good playbook. 2's ending is so satisfying because it wraps up everything we needed to have wrapped up. It wraps up all those plot threads that were left to be tied up at the end of the game. Rex and crew are able to forge their own Elysium, one they will have to constantly work to make better, but they forge it nonetheless. It's not a finish line that you can just somehow cross. It's not some magical place you can reach where all of your wants and desires are met and you live in eternal paradise. It's not heaven. It's a world that you have to constantly toil away at, work towards making it better. But again, they forge it nonetheless. And the story with Klaus is largely dealt with, bringing to a close a story that had started in Xenoblade 1. Pyra and Mithra had gone from wanting to meet their father to ask them to die because the pain and guilt of all that had happened was too much, to them begging him in one last year to give them another chance in life, to roll back the clock. Klaus seemingly grants this wish after Rex and everyone else had given him the closure and words that he needed. All the pain, all the struggle was worth it. They thanked Klaus for giving them life, and that to Klaus was the kindest, sweetest thing anyone had ever or could ever say to him. Better than any gift ever. After millennia spent in solitude, just watching with a sense of dread, looking down at the world, waiting for it to fall all apart again on him, for his own failures to ruin the lives of others yet again. But hearing Rex thank Klaus for giving them life, it made it all worth it in the end for him. And in the new world Rex and crew managed to make, their Elysium, it brings to a close the story of the Titans, of the Blades, and of Klaus. We get closure after closure after closure, but also experience a wild emotional journey as Pyra and Mithra had gone from wanting to die to wanting to live, but being willing to die nonetheless if it means saving Rex and everyone else. It's tragic. It also brings an end to Miles' story as it asks them what it was like to be alive. He managed to come around at the very end. But here's the thing. Pyra and Mithra come back, or at least they are brought back by Klaus as one last you blares in the post-credits scene. And this then brings closure to the story of Rex, Pyra, and Mithra and the concept of the Aegis, but also the Conduit as its work is now over. It's fading from existence, or at least teleporting to another dimension to screw up. Pyra and Mithra get the chance to live as regular people, not as these powerful Aegises. The love story comes to a close as Rex, Pyra, and Mithra are reunited, and we walk away from the game with closure to all the stories we really cared about, and having the themes and messages land and have the game's ending match the messages that the game was trying to tell you the entire time. It works because it feels like the ending that should belong to this type of story. And you pile on excellent music, timing, facial animations, and overall cinematography on top of all of that, and it's a super satisfying experience that makes all the effort you put in on this grand journey worth it. That feeling is the cornerstone upon which the endings of Xenoblade 1 and 2 are built on. And I talked about Torna a couple of days ago, so I'll leave a link in the description for why that ending is absolutely brilliant as well. But it operates under a different MO than 1 and 2. And to talk more about that, let's transition over to 3. And I've talked about Xenoblade 3's ending extensively. I hated it at first, but I really grew to appreciate it. And now I'd argue it's nearly on par with the other endings for me. But it's a different ending that sets out to do different things than Xenoblade 1 and 2. You aren't going to walk away with that sense of closure. Maybe you will, but that closure that you got from 1 and 2 isn't the point with 3. And you aren't going to walk away with a smile. It's bittersweet, harsh, brutal, unapologetic, and it does not care how you feel about it. But therein lies the beauty. It has a message, a powerful one, and it's going to convey it regardless if you want it to or not. Where We Belong operates under a similar principle to One Last Year, where part of the story is being conveyed through the music. Time marches forward. It will. It must. You can't, or at least shouldn't, be caught up in the present, because it is not only to your own self-detriment, but to the detriment of the world around you, as shown by M eventually breaking down for being Mobius and swapping places at the Eclipse with Mio, to N's emotional downfall, to the annihilation events across Ionios. It was only a matter of time till that endless now, that glass castle paradise, all fell apart, all crumbled away. And the pain of separation is raw and sharp. It is unforgiving, and sometimes the world doesn't care about your happiness, but it's going to keep spinning. The world will keep moving on. And sometimes your dream, your desire, will be moved farther from you, and sometimes it will be almost like it's beyond the horizon. But if you want that happiness, you have to be willing to march into the future with your head held high, willing to make a difference, willing to create a future of your own design. The only difference in the grand scheme of things with this ending and the others is that we don't see the happy ending right now. We leave off on the determination to continue moving into the future, because that's the message of Xenoblade at the end of the day. It's a beautiful take on a uniquely Xenoblade style of ending, where the message is to keep walking the path you choose to walk. The other two showed us the point where all the effort becomes worth it, but we aren't there yet with 3. And that's what makes 3's ending so poignant, unique, and endearing, because we aren't there yet, because we aren't guaranteed a happy ending. But we walk the path we choose anyway in the hopes that one day, we can meet again. That one day the worlds can come together again, and that one day we can create our own Elysium. Hell, it almost feels like Monolith is saying, we have told you how important moving into the future, despite not knowing what will come, is, and we've told you that it's so important for 2 games now. Will you still feel the same way if we don't guarantee a happy ending at the end of it all? If there is no happy reunion at the end, will the message still land? Did for me. Took some time, but it did. And the story of Ionios came to a close. But a new story for Noah, Mio, Uni, Tyon, Lanth, and Senna begins, and it leaves you wanting more. And I want more, and I love Xenoblade for that. Because you walk away not with this sense of finality that the other 2 games had, but wanting more. And it's a different ending. It's a different feeling from the other 2 endings, but it works nonetheless, and it works all the same. Because it concludes the stories that it needed to, but it starts a new one of its own, bringing you into the future. And that's why I think Xenoblade 3's ending is so poignant, so perfect. Because it wrapped up the stories, it gave you that sense of conclusion, finality that you needed, but wasn't only rooted in that closure. It opened a new door for you. And that, to me, is the art of a beautiful ending. It's not any one thing. It's just a matter of having the journey be worth it at the end, where the theme and the message of the game is beautifully told at the very end, where it's all laid before you. You can be subtle about it. You can leave it up to the player's imagination if you want sometimes. It matters how you execute upon that idea. And if at the end of the game, you walk away feeling like it was all worth it. And that feeling, to me, is what Xenoblade Chronicles is best at. And that, to me, is why I believe Xenoblade Chronicles has perfected the ending. So I'm going to call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. Leave a comment down below with your favorite ending of all time. Is it a Xenoblade ending? Is it a different ending? Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I'd love to hear why you think that. Love to hear your opinions. Leave the comments down below. And if you liked the video, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. And to watch more content, to be notified of when I upload in the future, please hit the bell icon to be notified for all future uploads. I would really appreciate that. Stay safe with everybody. Have a great day. Go play some video games. Have a good day. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody.